Hello there. Very good evening and welcome to Let's Talk Politics. I'm your host, Eddie Layne. And of course, as we always say, this program is dedicated to highlighting the progress and development taking place on the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration, led by His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali. Also, we use the opportunity to respond to the lies and misinformation, to debunk uh, the rumors and misinformation being spread by the opposition um, as part of their desperate attempt, to stymie the progress taking place in our country. This evening, I'm joined by the Honorable Bishop Juan Edghill, the Minister of Public Works. Bishop, it's a pleasure to have you here.
Good evening, Ed, and good evening to all your viewers and listeners. And certainly, it's a pleasure to be able to share these moments with you.
And I must, Bishop, apologize for the late start on your behalf to our viewers because you were on your way from one of the many, many outreaches that usually take place on the People's Progressive Party civic government, where ministers are always in the fields. You know, when I called you today, you were out in the fields trying to make your way down to participate in this program. This by itself, and when you look at what the other ministers as well are doing, is a demonstration that the People's Progressive Party civic government means business. We're 1 year almost since in office. We're what, maybe 3 days shy of that first anniversary, that first year in office of the Dr. Irfan Ali led government. Um, and I can say to you, I think Guyanese are satisfied, making when they look at what has taken place so far in the last 12 months or so, and when they compare that with those who would have occupied office not so long ago, then it is comparing cheese to chalk. And Bishop, we're going to talk a little bit tonight about the progress we've made. Um, First and foremost, what we would have inherited on August 2nd and what we've made, the progress we've made thus far being in office. I'm going to give you a chance to maybe make some opening comments generally, and then we come back and we examine a couple of maybe specific issues over the last 12 months.
Well, thank you very much, Ed, but I think I can safely say to our viewers and listeners that the last 1 year did bring a revival of hope, a restoration of joy, and certainly creating a new environment for peace and prosperity in our beloved country. We had just come out of that 5 months of uncertainty after we had a bunch of people who told the world and all Guyanese that they were decent and honest and people of integrity. But we saw one of the most transparent attempts to rig an election. The intelligence of the people were insulted by the various theories and narratives that were spinned and the propaganda that was being sold. 34 is the majority in a 65 member house, it's not 33, and things of that nature. This country literally lifted that Sunday afternoon when President Irfan Ali took the oath of office and immediately named his initial members of cabinet, which formed the transition team, and in a matter of days, named his entire cabinet, and we went to work, taking the reins of government, having to right the many wrongs, salvage the ship from sinking, and bring about restoration in this country. And we had to do that in a very peculiar environment. COVID 19. COVID, we had the first reported case sometime in March, and the then illegal, unconstitutional government, who was desperately holding on to power, used COVID as an excuse to stay in office rather than aggressively approaching the policy framework and implementing what was required to save our people from death and destruction. It is in the midst of those challenges that we took the reins of government, accepted the call to service, having received the mandate of the Guyanese people through the democratic process, having the votes of the majority and the right of passage to govern and to lead the development process. And it has been a journey of excitement, challenges, and certainly accomplishments. So, Eddie, as we sit here almost a year, even the supporters of the APNU AFC are breathing the fresh air of change. Even the people in the green corner are singing the praises of the PPPC because we are a government that have not just only taken care of PPPC supporters, but we have taken care of all Guyanese, including those who did not vote for us. You know why, Ed? Because a lot of people who didn't vote for us, it's not that they voted against us, it's that they believed the narratives and then they lent their support. But having voted for that group that has betrayed their trust and have destroyed their hope, they are now saying, we have a democratically elected government, let's work with them. Let's give them a chance and let us work together for the one Guyana and to make this country prosperous. And in that approach, they are seeing the delivery of goods and services in a non-discriminatory manner. And we reiterate again tonight on this program that the President Ali-led PPPC administration is a government for all the people of Guyana. Every region, every race, every religion, every class of society. And we will continue to serve the people of Guyana in that way.
Bishop, and as you talk, and I can visualize as you reflect on that Sunday afternoon when we all rushed down to the Artichon Convention Center, um, for the swearing in of His Excellency. After waiting 5 months, I mean, a lot of supporters of the PVP, a lot of Guyanese generally, many of them whom would have voted for APNU, too, were running out of patience because they realized what was happening, the naked attempts to steal the elections, and you touched on many of those issues. But, as I sit here, I can recall maybe Wednesday last year, this day should have been a Wednesday last year. Um, During that day, we were doing exactly what we are doing now, sitting on the television, on social media, trying to explain to the people of this country those naked attempts to steal the elections. And, I think on August 2nd of last year, that Sunday afternoon, um, Guyanese were breathing a sigh of relief Guyanese, when when GCOM made that declaration and they realized that His Excellency Dr. Mohamed Irfan would have been the ninth executive president of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, I think the atmosphere in this country completely changed. And His Excellency has not disappointed the people of this country. I can say that without fear of contradiction, and I know you can do the same because you've been moving across this country. We've been interacting with the citizens of this country. Many of them who didn't support the PPP, and they are satisfied because many of them would have been complaining for many, many years about the state of their roads in their communities. And it fell on deaf ears in the APNU AFC. Many people would have applied for house lots and they're reaching out to us. You know that. Every time you go into the field, somebody always approach you to say, I applied for a house lot in my community or in an area that is opening up, but the guys in Apple didn't give me a house lot. I struggled. They did more less than 4,000 house lots in 5 years. Every time you go into a community, somebody complains about the state, the quality of services they're receiving in every area of government. And what they do now is that they tell you we're happy, you've seen progress, you've seen improvement in the services being delivered. I've managed to get my house lot that I was waiting for. My streets are being fixed. Only a few days ago, Bishop, you would have commissioned two streets in Georgetown, and we're going to talk a little bit about the support because there seemed to be a case being made out as though the PUP has no interest in supporting strongholds of the opposition. But it could be easily debunked. We could talk about Linden. We could talk about what is happening there, the houses that are being distributed, the roads that are being built, and all that are the things that are happening there. And we are going to talk about Georgetown. 95 plus $1 million. Your ministry and I think the Ministry of Local Government are working together to fix the roads in Georgetown that APNU neglected for 5 years and that the city council that they control would have neglected. Guyanese people are better off, and I think they are way more happy with what they're seeing, the progress that are taking place. And importantly, Bishop, we are not being led by someone who goes to bed at 8 o'clock in the night. We are not being led by someone who is fearful to go and meet with the people, to interact with the people, to listen to their concerns. We are being led by a young, energetic president who is equally in the fields almost every day, may not be publicized in the media, but he's in the fields, up and about, meeting with people, listening to their concerns, and try to address them. And he is leading from the front, and he has a cabinet of ministers who are not letting him down, who are following suit, and are meeting with the people. This afternoon, I spoke with Minister Zulfikar Mustafa. I was supposed to step over to see him. He just came out of cabinet, and you know what he said to me? We got to meet some other day. I'm rushing to Berbice. I'm heading to Berbice. I want to get in a few meetings today, and then he's going to go into the fields tomorrow. That is the kind of leadership, hands-on approach where you're meeting with the people. And I keep saying this over and over. Under APNU, they set up a few tents at Coffee Square and a few other places with air condition, and people had to come and meet them, make appointment to see them many times, not getting access to them. You guys are making appointment to meet the people of this country because you're going to their communities.
Ed, and while you're talking about APNU AFC putting up a few tents on Coffee Square, that is only after they lost the no confidence motion. Remember that. That's when they want to curry favor the people. I am told that at the ministry where I preside, staff members never got a chance to meet the minister. When I invite staff, they say they want to talk to you, and I said, come over to the office. It is like an unusual happening. I've met contractors who had issues to be resolved and they couldn't get to meet the minister. I had situations where the public, who I meet on a almost weekly basis, if I advertise that, I'll be overwhelmed. But I meet members of the public every week. People call, I might be in a meeting, but my staff book them and give them a time when they could come. And we do that all the time. And people will tell you they're trying to get issues. I'm in 2021, I'm dealing with 2018 and 2019 issues. People who weren't paid, people who didn't get a matter resolved, people were on hold for years. But Eddie, that's the nature of the PPPC. We are unapologetically pro-poor, pro-working class, pro-people. We are a people-centered, people-oriented group. Our number one priority, people. This afternoon, Minister Damlal joined me at Good Hope. And then we went to Enterprise, where we had simple ribbon cutting ceremonies for roads that were done in those two NDCs. And I made the point, we are here to make sure that the people are satisfied. The people recognize that we did what we said we will do, and to hear from them. We could have just said, the road finished, that's it. But it wasn't about the road that took us there. It's about the people and ensuring the people are satisfied and listening to the people and being able to empathize with people. So that's a big difference. I also want to indicate that you could see the difference between what was over the last 2015, 2020 period and what is now. You had a bunch of pretenders, and sorry that I have to use that language, but that's what they were, pretenders, because some of them never had any position or office. Some of them never ran anything. But the fact that they were able to become ministers, an aura of elitism took over them, that they're this special breed, they're anointed, they have attained the rank of messiahship, and they couldn't get among the ordinary people and level with people and talk to people. And what you have here is a cabinet of highly qualified, extremely intelligent, but people sensitive and people oriented people who are leading the charge in various sectors. When you examine our cabinet after 1 year, what do you find? Competence, efficiency, not losing the common touch. On the ground, listening, sensing and understanding the needs of the people and bringing goods and services to them. That is why we didn't just send money out in the communities and say, come collect your envelope and with the Because We Care cash grant. But the ministers are there to be able to interact with the people, to ensure that they are served with dignity. Because no matter what you give to people, their dignity must be preserved. So when people come to collect their house lots, the ministers are there to ensure that the public servants and all of the administrative processes facilitate serving the people with dignity. We are distributing the Because We Care cash grant. The ministers are finding out to ensure whether it's the coastland, the hinterland, Amerindian communities, wherever, the people are served with dignity, understanding that they are valued, they're important, and listening to hear how we could best serve you. And I believe that has been a high point. It is what has earned us high marks, and we've gotten great reviews from the ordinary man of being there with him. We had the floods, the president is in the water, the prime minister is in the water, the cabinet members are out there in the boats with the hampers, checking on the shelters, ensuring the evacuations are done, not leaving anything to chance so that our people could be served with dignity. We ensured that we went into the backlands to ensure the animals were rescued. The ministers there to ensure the pumps are working. The excavators are there clearing the channel, not sitting in an office and on a phone and giving some directions, but being on the ground. Leadership by serving. And that is important for us. Leadership by serving.
I'm not too sure what is happening here. Oh, yes. So I'm saying that and you ended the last word you used there is that of leadership. And I can say without fear of contradiction that there is absolutely no shortage of not just leadership, but quality leadership in the People's Progressive Party Civic Administration. You have the president who's providing that leadership. He is supported, ably supported by the prime minister, the vice president, and his cabinet of ministers, who I think everyone, every single one, even for those who were being in a cabinet for the first time, have a hands-on knowledge of the sector in which they are operating. There is the energy, there is the commitment to the people of this country, and I think those are important aspects you touched. And we haven't really sat down and examined the level of transformation at the community level, at the individual level, that have been taking place since the PPC assumed office. We can pick any sector and we can see significant transformation. If we look at the health sector, we see tremendous efforts being made by this government. The only government in the Caribbean at this point in time that has procured adequate COVID 19 vaccines for the adult population and that is actively pursuing vaccines that can be administered to the children of this country. And I'm just touching on one issue there. In the education sector, we have managed, Minister Priya Manichan has been from the get go on the ground, touching communities across the length and breadth of Guyana, in the hinterland, on the coastland. It doesn't matter where those communities are, to ensure that in this COVID 19 environment, that education is delivered to the nation's children. She, along with Minister Parag, are spearheading the rollout of a massive scholarship program in the Goal Initiative, outside of the University of Ghana scholarships, outside of the other scholarship through bilateral relations with countries. Minister Manichan has expanded the learning channel. The learning channel was reaching, or had limited reach in this country. In 10 months, in 11 months, or less, because it has been up and running for a few months now, Minister Manichan and the People's Progressive Party civic government has managed to expand the reach of the learning channel to all regions of this country and to communities that they weren't reaching before. Those communities that don't have access to the learning channel or have access to the internet, the minister herself would have been in the field delivering packages to ensure that students continue learning in the COVID 19 environment. Minister Dharam Lal, and you mentioned him earlier, has been in the length and breadth of this country to communities to ensure that community streets are fixed, roads are fixed, the basic things are happening. Minister Colin Crowell, Minister Susan Rodriguez have been traveling around this country, ensure communities are fixed, ensure that people are given house lots, ensure that there is water supply. Those who don't have were receiving. Yourself, Minister Indar from your ministry, ensuring that communities are connected to the national grid to get electricity, ensure that efforts are made to improve. You, and I can go on and on and on all the time. Look at the management of the recent floods. Look at the management. There has not been a single minister of this government, including the president himself, who didn't go into the fields to meet with people, to listen to their concerns, and to make genuine efforts to provide help. So, and I can go on and on about the service being provided. Minister Mustafa, um, the Prime Minister himself has been across this country. The Vice President, the Minister of Finance, you name any member of the cabinet. They have touched lives across this country in the last 11 months, almost 12 months, just a few days shy. The point I am making is that you have a government that is working, replacing a government of people who were sitting in office. You had a Minister of Agriculture who didn't know the crops that were being planted in Blackbush Polar. He knew nothing. Noel Holder knew nothing about agriculture. If you ask him, at one point, I could recall, I called Noel Holder to ask him about the closure of the Wales estate. I had the information of the date and when the estate will be closed, but Noel Holder didn't know. Didn't know, had to go and find out. So you had a bunch of sailors in afternoon in office. Sailors. All they needed were ships. They were complete sailors. On the flip side, you have a government of people who are working, who know what is happening, and I can say, Bishop, without fear of contradiction again, that our first year in office as government, as a government led by His Excellency Dr. Mohammed Irfan Ali, you look at the manifesto, any single citizen, you pick up the People's Progressive Party Civic Manifesto, and you look through what we promise, and you look on the ground and see what is happening. We have kept every single promise we made, and we have, matter of fact, there are areas where we're way advanced of what we promised you, and we're moving ahead, and that will continue. This is not a government that sits. This is not a government that will allow people to suffer in this country and not provide service for them.
Well, Ed, I concur with everything you have said. And I dare say not only I concur, but I believe that is the views, those are the views of the majority of Guyanese. I noticed you noted you said that you have a government that is working. And yes, we are working. But more importantly, we are working in the interests of the people of Guyana. And that is the point that must be noted because the things that we are doing, the policy interventions that we have made and continue to make, are all in the interests of the people of Guyana. So, in the emergency budget of 2020, we got to work and immediately we addressed those wrongs. The APNU AFC had pushed their hands in the pockets of the Guyanese people and have taken away their disposable income. We got into office in August, and by end of October, we had reversed all of those hardship measures, taken the VAT off of essential food items, taking the VAT off of heavy duty equipment, reversing the D&I charges. We've gone to court to defend those whose lands were taken away. We're able now to restore their titles. Those farmers in West Babis, the single mothers and those young professionals who are waiting in the line for their house lots. Thousands have already been served, and more are coming on stream. We have been able to inspire the entrepreneurial spirit of the private sector by giving them the necessary concessions, creating that architecture, that enabling environment for them to thrive as captains of business, to create employment, just bringing more and more of our people into the middle class. We have addressed the issues of the future, infrastructure, securing our sea and river defenses, ensuring that our lands are not flooded and inundated when the tide is high or when we have heavy rainfall. We have addressed the issue of the drainage and irrigation by putting the pumps in the city to prevent flooding. We have encouraged, through the Ministry of Human Services and Social Security, our women to rise up in leadership. Through the Ministry of Labor, Board of Industrial Training, we have sought to train our young people with skills that they could be employable. We have put in place a framework for job creation. I'm sure our people are grateful for the assistance that they've gotten from the government, but their one dream is to be able to work and earn, get their businesses going, control their own pockets, improve themselves. And when you listen to the measures of our 2020, followed by advanced measures in the 2021 budget, Guyanese are breathing again. People are happy. We're getting out of that struggle because there is no way that we could discuss and not talk about the mess and the great fatigue that people were under when we came to government. So we've had to do a lot of restoring, repositioning. We've had to do a lot of stabilizing, getting things on a stable footing, and while doing that, still launch new things that will bring direct benefits to the masses, looking after their interests. And that is what we are proud of after 1 year in government.
I'm not too sure. Yeah, as we move forward, Bishop, over the next few days, and deliberately, we are not really touching on too much on what has been done, as we intend to ensure that we put a proper program together as a government to highlight, to showcase the progress that has been taking place, to bring to your attention, the response of the nation. But we can sit here and we can identify tons of things that were done. Bishop, you touched on the issues that were at the very heart of the people of this country, those hardship measures that were imposed on this nation by the Granger-led administration for 5 years, the taxes and all the other things that were happening. The nation was suffering. People were not given house lots. Roads were not being fixed. The school system, the education system was broken. People were storing pharmaceutical and drugs in hotel rooms, while hospitals and health centers across the country were without basic paracetamol, basic medical supplies. Hospitals were falling apart. Health centers were falling apart. Schools were without the necessary supplies. And you name it, the problems were tremendous for the people of this country. And for the last 12 months, a lot of these were addressed. A lot of things were fixed. And I can't emphasize enough how effective and tremendous the response. Look, we were in a situation where APNU was trying to use the COVID 19 pandemic as a political football, where Vola Lawrence was taking the tests when they were done, the doctors weren't getting access to them, and she was determining how many should go out, as though there was proper management of the COVID 19 situation. In the initial stages, when efforts could have been made then to control the spread and to bring the situation under control, we took over a mess. His Excellency, even before he took office, was leading a more effective COVID 19 response um, program with limited resources because we were in opposition up to the August 2nd. And His Excellency managed to distribute thousands of face masks, PPEs, etc., to citizens as well as to ensuring that healthcare workers were protected. From the get go, assuming office, he ensured that he reformulated, refashioned the COVID 19 task force to respond to the pandemic. Remove those hardship measures. You spoke about the emergency budget, which brought significant benefits to the people. And you and I both know, Bishop, that we took over agencies and institutions and ministries in this country that were in a sad, a very, that were in very, very sad states, where there weren't monies to really do anything. There were no programs really to ensure that benefits are brought to people. You had a lot of slush funds all over the place. You had a lot of thieving happening where people were filling their pockets, especially after the no confidence motion, when they recognized that the people of this country were heading down a road where they would be booted out of office. You had the corruption running rampant within the AP and UAFC administration with absolutely no care and concern about the people of this country. We have done tremendous work. And sometimes we have to blow our own trumpets. We have to recognize ourselves for what we've been doing. We've been working with every single community. And I want to say, and I know you might very well share the same views, that when you look at how the progress and development is being spread across this country, it is not being done based on people's ethnicity, based on people's religion, based on people's political affiliation, or their geographic location. It is being done equitably. No one is being asked when they apply for a house lot to produce a party card, or no one is being judged that he or she is PNC or AFC or APNU. Once you're qualified, you benefit. Look at the rollout of the 15,000 cash grant and the $4,000 uniform and supplies voucher, the $19,000 being given to parents. Once your child is in the public school system, you benefit, regardless of who you voted for, regardless of your religion or your race or where you live. The ministers of this government are going to the communities themselves to ensure that the citizens of this country benefit. And that is how a government for the people operate. That is how a pro-poor government operates. A government that ensures that it's creating opportunities. Look, they always talk about Linden, Bishop. They always talk about Linden. But they closed the Tucan call center in Linden when they took office and put people out of jobs. We're in the process of reopening that call center and to recreate those jobs for the young people in Linden, many of whom are unemployed as a result of the actions of the APNU AFC. They destroyed the forestry sector, the mining sector. Granger said rice is not government's business, it's private business. They fired people in the sugar industry, closed estates. We are reopening those estates, creating employment opportunities for people. And that is how a government that cares operate. You know, opportunities are being created. And, we had discussions, I had discussions with Minister Susan Rodriguez, Minister Colin Crowell about the housing drive that is ongoing. 6,000 house lots. 6,000 house lots in 12 months, as against less than 4,000 in 5 years. In one day, Susan Rodriguez and Colin Crowell, as ministers in the housing ministry, managed to distribute more house lots than APNU distributed in Linden in 5 years. In one day. Your ministry managed to fix more roads and bridges in this country in one year that APNU and Patterson, the hustler, managed to fix in 5 years. And those are the little things, as Patterson like to use the term little things, those are the real little things that are important to people and that can improve their lives and make them live more comfortably.
But Eddie, we also have to articulate that in also the context of what is happening with the opposition. Because you have some people who have nothing to do and all day to do it. They have nothing to do and all day to do it. They are on Facebook spreading misinformation, creating hostility, peddling racism, baiting people for racist responses, creating confusion, driving fear in people. And progress is happening while they're doing that. Think about where we could have been if they weren't making the environment so toxic. You have an opposition leader who's fully vaccinated. Rather than stand on the high altar and provide leadership to a country that is seized by COVID-19, that global pandemic that is affecting the whole world. Rather than joining with President Ali in providing leadership and ensuring that every Guyanese get vaccinated. Look and see what has happened since he has made those irresponsible statements and comments. The rate of vaccination has gone down. But you know what? We're getting it back up. Because people recognize the importance. So you have an opposition that ridicules our athletes who have made it to the Olympics because of the uniform that he wore. We have everyday people on Facebook, particularly those from the Christian religion, who are spewing curses, words of death, and condemnation over Guyana just because they and those they give succor to are not in government. Wishing for failure, hoping for catastrophe because they're not willing to see Guyana prosper and all the people of Guyana prosper. Selfish, self-serving, lacking in vision, and certainly juvenile in their thinking. So had we had a more cooperative environment. An election is over, you're hurt because you didn't win, you said what you had to say, you did what you had to do, you file your election petitions, they ain't going nowhere, they ain't got no merit, you're not getting any traction in the courts. Be a responsible opposition. Hold the government's feet to the fire. Demand more for people. But instead of them demanding more, you have an opposition who's actually trying to prevent people from getting their cash grant. I did a program not so long ago, and I was going to Linden in a few days, and I said, Linden is their stronghold. But you know what? The people of Linden will be there to collect their cash grant, even though you had Coretta McDonald et al. Saying what they had to say. The turnout and collection at Linden in the 2 days that we spent there was plus 98%. 98%. And we're probably now by about 100%, because those who were not able to get it on the day because they had to work or they were elsewhere were able to go to the education office in the region and pick up their grants. In their own stronghold. So you have the other who comprise what I describe as the lunatic fringe. The lunatic fringe elements, who display signs of mental health disorders. Say and do things on Facebook, stirring up, agitating, and creating confusion, casting doubt. And they don't realize that they're holding up Guyana's development. But it is in that environment we have successfully launched and implemented transformative developmental projects and programs for the modernizing of Guyana and bringing Guyana into prosperity. The next 1 year, Eddie, is going to be fantastic, because a lot of the seeds that have been sown, you'll start to bear the fruit. We will see the expansion, getting into agro-processing, light manufacturing, being able to reopen our tourism brand to the world in a safe, responsible COVID-19 pandemic environment, ensuring that the job creation, because we promised the people that we will create 50,000 jobs in the 5-year period. We're on the way to that mark. More and more people are getting work. And some people might want to dispute and says, but where are the jobs? Let me just explain to you. If you got 6,000 people building homes, every home, you'll require about 4 people permanently until that home is completed. You have to get the cantors, the truck drivers to bring the sand, the laborers, the hardware store have to employ staff to provide the services, the owners of the excavators and the bobcats getting rentals. People have to work. And that's just one sector. As we continue to promote information communication technology. The ICT sector is growing and developing. Private sector investment, government freeing up and liberalizing the telecommunications sector with the possibility of greater bandwidth, cheaper access to data, jobs being created. Every time we do a new highway, build a new hotel, open up new agricultural lands for the planting of corn and soya beans. When we take VAT off of the heavy duty equipment and people are able to buy their excavator at a cheaper price to going back into the interior to mine for gold, jobs. When we redesign the forestry policy, where those community foresters could start going back and cutting their logs and sell them. Real people earning real money. When we're able through the Small Business Bureau to give out grants for small business development, jobs. Small businesses are known to hire every small business between 2 and 3, sometimes up to 5 persons. Jobs at the community level. So our policies and our programs are advancing the interests of the people and ensuring that their dreams are realized. And the next 1 year, we will see greater fruit bearing because the foundation is being properly laid and we're on our way to prosperity.
And Bishop, um, interestingly, the fact that you mentioned the foundation is being laid, it's sad that in 5 years, a foundation was laid, a nation of prosperity was constructed under the People's Progressive Party Civic. And in 5 years, the APNU AFC dismantled the entire structure, dug up the foundation. That is why we are here today, 1 year after we returned to office, talking about laying a foundation. And you mentioned the fact that you have an opposition that is more concerned, and I keep making this point. These guys are taking the word opposition in its truest sense. If you go now to the National Assembly and you say, look, as the government, the PUP is proposing that you make all the members of parliament in the opposition side ministers, they will oppose that because the only thing they know is to go there and oppose. They will oppose that. It doesn't matter if you go now to say that you're going to give $100,000 to every family. They will oppose that. Like they oppose the cash grant. Imagine putting money in the hands of parents of children in public school, and these guys are opposing it, making a whole set of noise. And you spoke about them sitting on television. Nothing of worth. Nothing of worth. When you could have members of parliament on the opposition side sitting for an hour on the television talking about who dog died and who and the neighbor cuss out and who look nice. That's the kind of thing you have coming from this gap. Nothing of substance. They're not there to talk about how people should benefit, how the resources of the state should be spent. You expect an opposition that is going to be there as an alternative government, to propose measures that will better the lives of people. And the Attorney General once said, I think while he was addressing a gathering in New York, that sometimes he is tempted to call them to say, look, that is not how you criticize us. Because even to that, he said they can't do. And that's the problem that we have. A weak bunch of hustlers whose only aim while they were in office was to make money off of the backs of the people of this country by stealing the resources. And now they're in opposition. They're running mad because they don't have access to the state purse. So the narcissism is creeping in. So they criticize, they try to preach that the PP will fail all the time. But while they're preaching that, the nation is moving forward, the country is moving forward. And I said before, and I will say it again, the train of progress and development has left the station. Sadly, Harman and the opposition missed that train. And they have a choice. They make their way to the next stop and join that train, or they stay behind and continue to be the failure they are to the people of this country. The fact of the matter is, whether they like it or not, Guyana is moving forward with the People's Progressive Party civic in government, and progress and prosperity has been restored and will be restored based on the foundation, like you rightly said, that has been laid. Bishop, this is where we're going to wrap things up. I'll give you a minute for your closing comments because we're almost out of time.
Eddie, while I would have applauded the successes and the great achievements of the PPPC administration in its first year in office under President Irfan Ali, I must make the case that not everything has been perfect, and I'm sure that some of our viewers and listeners would be able to point out you're only talking about all the good things, but not everything has been fixed. And that may be true. I want to say to all Guyana as I close with you tonight on this program of Let's Talk Politics, we might not be perfect, but certainly we are good for Guyana. We might not have done everything perfect, but we have served Guyana well. We might not have been able to address everything in the first year, but you can see light at the end of the tunnel, that you have a government that is working for you, and it's only a matter of time for us to get to the next and the next and the next, because we are determined to transform this nation, modernize this nation, and prosper this nation. And I've been saying it, and I say it again here tonight. When the tide comes in, all the boats rise. When the tide of prosperity comes in, APNU boats will rise. TNM boats will rise. PPPC boat will rise. All Guyanese will rise. And we are bringing in that tide of prosperity. Work with us. Engage us. Put good thoughts, good faith, and good spirit out. Criticize us constructively, but let's clasp and lock arms together, and let's make Guyana a better place as we work for one Guyana. Thank you for the opportunity, Eddie. Thank you for your viewers and listeners for joining and listening to me tonight. God's blessings on everyone.
And thank you very much for being here, Bishop, and to our viewers and listeners. We want to say thanks for being part of the program. We're going to be back with you on a Saturday evening. Until then, have a good rest of the evening. Bye for now. Stay safe.